So it's a point apiece then in the game in London. Just taking a look at what that means in the table. You can see, obviously, in this race for a top four, which is really top five because of the way the coefficient is working for the new format of the Champions League. So Spurs still remain 2 points behind Villa, but the big thing is that gap that they have over Manchester United, which is 9 points. United, of course, still to play this week. We welcome in Jurgen Klinsmann to the show. Jurgen, overall, I think a draw, a fair result in this game.
Yeah, I think so. A draw is a fair result. I mean, Tottenham had majority of the game. I mean, 70% possession, controlled it most of the time. But West Ham, defensive display was very, very positive, was good, was strong. Very few chances, unfortunately, for such a big derby. You know, you wish there were more chances. Antonio, he had the chance then with the breakaway after the foul not given on Maddison. That could have been the game changer. Could have been the win for West Ham. But overall, I think a tie is fair. I mean, Spurs overall look okay. They look good in the race for a Champions League spot. It's been so far, overall, I think, a very positive season for Tottenham.
Yeah, positive season, 1-1 against West Ham, not the end of the world. Yeah, I wouldn't be looking over my shoulder too much if you've watched Liverpool FA Cup quarter-final apart. If you've watched Man United in the league, for the most part, I wouldn't be too worried. I would call this flat. Yeah. Lively early from Spurs, particularly Werner. And I think they missed a trick there because he was quiet. Apart from the first 20 minutes, Timo Werner was quite quiet. And I think they missed a trick because he had the beating of Soufal when they had him one-on-one. He absolutely had the beating of it, but they didn't utilise that one-on-one, the isolation of those two players and letting him run it at the West Ham right back. So that was something that didn't really work for Tottenham. He left him on, by the way, took Maddison off, which was a little bit of a surprise. But yeah, I was a little disappointed. I wasn't disappointed with West Ham because that's kind of what West Ham are. I was a little bit disappointed with Spurs today in the final third, and I just felt it was all a bit flat, yeah. Talk us through the West Ham goal, Shat, because I feel like we've seen this before, haven't we? With Vicario being exposed, no protection.
Vicario can't come for it because there's so many bodies in the box.
Right.
And I think opponents recognising that physically he isn't the strongest, so he's not going to just knock people out the way in coming for crosses. So if you put bodies in there, he's pinned to the line. And then when you're a West Ham and you've got somebody like Ward-Prowse who you can call on for in terms of deliveries, every set piece all of a sudden takes on a greater prominence, especially when you're up against a team like Spurs and a goalkeeper like Vicario.
Ward-Prowse whipping them in from the right, and he is one of the best exponents of the set piece in the Premier League, without a doubt. And you've got Jared Bourne whipping them in from the other side. Now, this is a weak point for Tottenham. Now, Mikel Antonio was the player that planked himself in front of the goalkeeper. And if you watch that clip there, he never moved. He wasn't trying to block. He wasn't trying to... He just stood his ground. He was a big lad, don't get me wrong. He just stood his ground and he didn't move. And what you're going to see with Tottenham is all the teams trying to whip balls in under the crossbar. Yeah. They're going to try and whip them in. They're going to try and whip them in flat. They're going to try and get bodies in there. And by the way, it wasn't just that corner that was the goal. Every corner kick in this match that West Ham had, Tottenham, not just Vicario, defensively, I think there's something there that they're going to have to work on because everyone, it was more or less a West Ham head that got there first.
As a coach, Jurgen, how do you address that vulnerability?
This is an attitude issue. I mean, set pieces are big, obviously. You know, almost every third goal comes out of a set piece, especially in big tournaments, competitions. And you have to train that, obviously, and I'm sure that all the teams train it and try to kind of memorize their runs inside out, especially the offensive ones. But this is, first and foremost, it is an attitude topic. You know, you gotta somehow be able to put more adrenaline in your brain for that quick second and attack the ball and know where your opponent is. And you got to be alert. And obviously, you know, everybody watches everybody, meaning, you know, you see then if your opponent is vulnerable there, you see if one or two players maybe here and there lose concentration, and you then focus on these little weak points of your opponent. And as Greg said, there's there's an issue with Spurs that in that moment they're vulnerable, and you felt that. You felt it throughout the game. Every time West Ham had a set piece, had a corner kick, it was kind of a little bit burning. The crowd picks up on it. The fans smell it too. And so they were dangerous right there. And no surprise they scored with that corner kick.
If you look, they're not... Usually, when you look at teams, you have front guys that you can bring back to defend.
Right.
Look at today. Son, Maddison, Werner...
Johnson isn't big.
Brennan Johnson. These... Normally, you've got 2 or 3 in your front line or your forward players that you can bring back. And they're really good at heading. They're really good. Some of the best set-piece defenders I ever played with were actually strikers that used to come back and were brilliant at attacking the ball.
Yeah.
But Spurs don't really... I mean, if Richarlison plays and Kulusevski starts, it's certainly 2 bigger players. But in that current team, it's not the biggest physical Tottenham side.
So defensively, from a goalkeeper's point of view, how are you dealing with this, Shaq?
Well, the issue for Vicario, as I mentioned, is he simply isn't strong enough in his upper body to kind of bump players out of the way. All those defenders there, West Ham aren't going to move anybody. They're going to keep those same 3 or 4 in the 6-yard box and challenge Vicario to come and come over the top of a Michael Antonio or a Zuma or whoever else it may be. And I don't see him doing that either. So it really is a hiding to nothing for Vicario.
Jürgen, can I ask you a complicated tactical question, if you don't mind? Did you like playing in the rain?
Oh, I love to play in the rain, absolutely, yeah, because it makes it everything happens faster, quicker, and so I enjoyed always playing in the rain. But I would like to add there something to the set-piece discussion is communication is a very, very important tool. You need a leader or 2 leaders in your defense, in your overall shape. If it's the goalkeeper and your center back or whoever it is there in the box, you need somebody to raise the energy, in defensive set pieces. And it looked to me like Tottenham was too quiet. They were too quiet. They were just expecting the balls and then, let's fix it. And this is an important issue that we always discuss with the players. When you're in set pieces, especially defensive set pieces, somebody has to talk. Somebody has to wake up everybody around him to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And I was missing that a little bit today.
And of course, if you're marking zonally, then you're open to Zuma coming from where he came from. Because when you're marking zonally, you don't put somebody around by the back post. You just don't do it. So you have to give somebody the choice or the job to go and do that. So that's another thing you could look at. But that's not the reason it's 1-1 in this game. Tottenham just didn't offer enough going forward.
Right, why not?
I don't know if, Maddison, I just don't know if he's quite at his best at the moment. And Heung-min Son was trying stuff, but it was all very tight. When Tottenham got to the edge of the box, particularly in the second half, it was all very congested. Son was trying to drop a shoulder and get it on his left foot and whip it in. And West Ham, in all fairness, were getting bodies back and doing what they do. Defended very well on the edge of their own box. And that's why I was a little bit frustrated not seeing, particularly Werner, being left alone. And if it was me playing, and I see that a wide man has the beating of a fullback early on, whenever I get that ball, given the right opportunity, I'm stuffing it into Werner, and I'm not saying stay away from him. Don't overlap him. Don't go out there. Don't crowd it. Get it to his feet. Let him run at the defender. And once I saw that he had the beating of him early, and he did, inside and outside, by the way. He had the pace down the outside. Then a defender starts to overcover. He could cut inside on his right foot. But for some reason, Tottenham stopped doing that. And it wasn't because West Ham really changed anything. It was because, when Werner was getting it, he was passing it back. And I just felt that today, with the congestion that West Ham have, if you're asking why Tottenham never created as much as they should have done with the possession, is because there's nothing wrong with good old-fashioned wide play. We saw it in the Arsenal City game at the weekend. There was not a tougher defence to break down in Europe this season than that Arsenal back four. And you've got to find width. And when you find width and good crosses, That is not obsolete in this game because that's an alternative, and Tottenham didn't have that today.
Spurs, no doubt about it, will have a big hand to play in the title race between now and the end of the season, given they've got to play City, Arsenal and Liverpool. Given that run-in and given what they have to face with 8 games to go, is there any chance you think we could see Manchester United come in and take that 5th place, which it looks like will be also a Champions League spot?
You're just trying to shoehorn a Man United battering into this show.
No, I'm what you...
Because if you're a Man United fan and you watch them against Liverpool, you go, oh, give me hope.
Right.
Lord, give me strength. Can we do this every week? And the answer is, they cannot.
Right.
Right. They can get up for some of the big games, some of them, and yet it was back to basics, it was back to normality at Brentford when, really and truly, it was daylight robbery, the fact that they even come out with a point. So there's nothing in their consistency levels that would suggest to me that they're going to put enough of a run together to catch, say, Tottenham.
Right.
Nothing.
No.
You can't keep offering up the amount of chances. And let's not forget, in this great win against Liverpool, and it was, that Liverpool were very profligate in that game.
Yeah, second half.
Very wasteful. Very wasteful. So you can't keep doing that. And for me, watching this United side, it's about hanging on, trying to nick the odd result, and hoping your goalkeeper or the other team don't finish in the final third like they should. That's not a policy to get in Champions League football. It's just not. I don't see them doing it. I don't even think they've got a chance of doing it, to be honest, playing like that.
Genuine conversation about maybe him taking over from Jurgen Klopp as the next Liverpool manager. How would you see that fit? Do you think that would work? Do you think that's something that could work for both sides?
No, I don't see that coming. I don't see Ange going away from Spurs. I think he starts a very exciting project. He's started very, very well. You know, Spurs were up on top in the beginning of the season, but we all knew it's not going to last forever. So I think the Spurs fans, they all enjoyed it for the first couple of months to look at the table. I think reality is right there where they are right now, spot 4 or 5. That's the fight that Spurs has to fight right now, making sure they get into the Champions League for next season. That would be a tremendous positive outcome of his first year at Spurs. Whoever wants to follow in the footsteps of Jurgen Klopp will have a very, very difficult task.
Yeah.
Will have a very difficult job. And I look back a little bit at that transition, you know, when Sir Alex Ferguson left, obviously the helm there at Man United, and David Moyes stepped in. I still believe that David Moyes was the right manager for Man United at that time, absolutely. But he was not giving the time. You know, he was not even given a year. I think whoever steps now into the footsteps of Jurgen Klopp needs to get at least a chance to be there for 2-3 years, at least 2 years, at least 2 seasons, you know, to kind of slowly make things the way he wants it to do and shape the team the way he wants to do. But it's going to be very, very, very difficult. So I'm not surprised that Xabi Alonso, you know, said that he will remain with Leverkusen for the time being for another year, which is fantastic news for Leverkusen, obviously. But he knows that following on Jurgen Klopp at Anfield is pretty much impossible. It will take 2-3 years for that transition to happen.
Even if Liverpool wanted Postecoglou, and there are others, Tottenham have one of the most stubborn
Mr. Levy.
chief executives that runs the club for Mr. Lewis and his investment group. He's never, ever, ever, I would imagine now, going to let go of something that I don't think even he believed. Because let's not forget, Postecoglou was not even in the top 3 for getting that job, right? So he stumbled on something. I know Spurs fans go, oh, we're not quite, oh, yeah, we should have been... Listen, look where you were, look where you are. Look at the way you were playing, the style of football, look how you're playing now. It was never going to be perfect, and it's always going to take time. So Levy has stumbled on a manager who has played the most exciting football at Tottenham for years, right? That's fact. And he is not going to let that go, because the alternatives out there are limited.
Yeah.
You know, then he would have to go and chase somebody. If Postecoglou was to go to Liverpool, then he's going to go to Brighton for De Zerbi, something like that. These things are not going to be easy. So even if Liverpool wanted him, which I have no idea whether they do or not, but this Alonso decision has set a bit of a domino chain of panic setting in with who's going to get the Barca job, who's going to get that job, who's going to get the Bayern job, who's going to get the Liverpool job, how's it all going to fit? I don't see Levy even entertain. Don't forget, he turned down some big money for Harry Kane. He was very stubborn on Harry Kane right to the end for many a year. He's not going to let, I don't think, Shaki's not going to let
I agree. Listen, in terms of fit, I think Postecoglou is as close to Jurgen Klopp as you will get, both in terms of how his teams play and in terms of his personality, how he manages the players, how he manages the fans, which is a big part of Jurgen Klopp's appeal, certainly to Liverpool fans. But while I say all that Ange Postecoglou absolutely is the perfect fit, I'm with Craig in that I don't think anybody is looking forward to picking up the phone to Daniel Levy to try to convince him to let go of Postecoglou. I think that's a pretty short conversation that ultimately you'll be frustrated in, and then all of a sudden now you have to cast your net a whole lot wider.
It's a good job Ancelotti stayed at Real Madrid for another couple of years, isn't it? Well, can you imagine the merry-go-round then?
Most definitely.
Barca, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, you know, Liverpool, all looking for Man United. I mean,
right, yeah.
You know, what might save Ten Hag? I don't want to go back to Man United, but I'm sort of seem to have progressed there. Is if everybody else is looking for this next best thing to
don't forget Barcelona as well.
Well, that's what I mean. But you know, so that could be Ten Hag's saviour. That these other managers, these other clubs, go for the best of what's available and around, and Man United then have nowhere really to go. So that could save him.